Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Brainstorm Live. I'm so excited to introduce Dee Wagner and her partner, John Cargile. She's the founder of Chi for Two, and she is going to explain to us how to use how to use expressive dance therapy or movement therapy to sort of understand our nervous system and how we can regulate our nerves through movement. And so I'm so excited to learn. And everyone, I'll have you take it away.
Thank you, Emily. So I'm Dee, and I'm so excited to be here with you and to share my work and to hear your thoughts. And this is my husband, John Cargill. He is my business partner, my yoga partner. He is the person who came up with the name Chi for Two.
So Dee uses words, but I mostly just play with them. So Chi for Two relates to the old American tune, Tea for Two. So it's a play on that. And of course, we use it more with two people having their energy of their relationship.
Yeah. John is the artist who created the final drawing of my map and the circle of support and all the drawings that go with Chi for Two. And he is going to facilitate an embodied chat experience. So when you hear his voice, he's on a mic that comes through this screen, you know who's talking. I will name that I have resequenced what I am presenting today based on the two mass shootings that have happened in the United States. One, which happened in Atlanta, where John and I are located. In this shooting, a 20-ish white man went into some spas where body work was being done and killed a group of people, 8 to 9 people, 8 people, a majority of whom were of Asian descent. Those of you who had an opportunity to read the document, Why Chi for Two Now, may recognize that the polyvagal lens of Chi for Two helps us better understand social justice, trauma, and the teasing out of the difference between the attachment dances of infant parent and romantic partners. The first embodiment experience I'd like to invite you into before we do the one related to the chat is one of the tools that I offer in the neuroeducation toolbox that Eric and Raisa have created. Thank you so much. It's called the power of push. And when I invite you into an embodiment practice, it's truly an invitation. You may RSVP, no thank you. If you wish to experience this, I invite you to find something around that you could push into. If you're at a desk or a table that is not on wheels, you could push into that. If you're at a sofa that has arms or a chair that has arms, you could turn and push into that. You could get up and go to a door or a wall and push into that. Now, if you're standing and pushing, I invite you to put one foot forward and one foot back so you are self-supported as you push. If I were there with you, if we weren't in COVID, if our relationship had given me the sense that you are capable of RSVPing no to an invitation, I would invite you to push into my hands. And as you push, I name, when we push into what is not us, we find ourselves. When I push into what's not me, I find me. As you're pushing, you can feel your forearms. If you push a little harder, you can feel your biceps. As you push harder, you can feel into your core, your belly brain. We have all of these nerves in the intestines. It's called our enteric nervous system. It's our belly brain. If you push super duper hard, you can feel down into your legs, even if you're seated. You can feel your feet on the floor. When we are swaddled as babies, as newborns, and we begin to push into the swaddling, we begin to feel that these things, arms and legs and hands and feet, belong to us. As you experience this push and find you by pushing into what's not you, you can feel how embodiment is a relational dance. You can feel that you are learning arms control. As you are ready to release the pushing, you might notice if you still feel connected to your belly brain, and this is the thing John's going to help with, I invite you to see if you can let some energy bubble up from your belly brain, go out your arms into your hands, and you put one word in the chat box. See if the word might could just pop out and surprise your left brain. And as a few words start to appear, John will read them out. And as you hear the words, you can think about this idea of something coming up from the belly brain, popping out, and the head brain going, well, look at that. What are some of the words that might be appearing, if any are appearing yet, John?
Surprise. Integration. Tension. Vitality.
Let me tell you about me. When I was born, they mixed up the babies at the hospital. And I was not given to my mom or this other mom that got the baby, that person's baby passed back and forth. So I wasn't given to a mom for several feedings. Shortly after I was born, my father had his first psychotic episode, which meant that his psychosis was brewing as I was forming in the womb. I started seeing a counselor at 19. And part of my journey with counseling over many years was expressive arts therapy and body-based therapies. When I was 36, I decided to become a therapist myself. My undergrad's theater, so I knew when I went back to get my counseling degree that I wanted to do expressive arts therapy. And I also became a dance movement therapist. Then this life-changing thing occurred. In 2013, I found Polyvagal Theory. All of a sudden, everything I'd ever done in my own therapeutic journey and in my work with clients made sense. The thing that really hooked me about Polyvagal Theory is the realization that we have anatomy that facilitates an active state that is not fueled by fight flight. Now, I began trying to draw how I saw polyvagal theory with my clients. I would try and explain it, and as I was explaining it, I would draw these things, and eventually this drawing became my map of nervous system functioning, which is the second tool on the neuroeducational toolbox. Now, John did the final drawing for me. I asked him, I'm moving so I can show it to you, the drawing, and work with it with you, into this green screen. So this puts the drawing behind me as a virtual background, and then I can be like a weather person and dance around with it. I asked John when he did the final artistic rendering to please keep that look of me drawing it there in my therapy rooms with various clients, the stick figure sort of nature of this drawing. So before polyvagal theory, we used to think our bodies, our anatomy provided one continuum of activation and calming. When polyvagal theory came along, we learned we have two. We have this kind of active state I was telling you about that is not fueled by fight flight. It's creative. It can be super active, but it's not fight flight. If I'm working on a piece of dance choreography, and I'll say this for Emily, who I know does ballet dance, and maybe it's super active, but the choreography calls my name and I stop, yeah, you know, could you do a little more of this, a little less? Oh, no. Now I'm going to demo the difference if I go into fight flight, because early in my career, I did a lot of performing in fight flight because, you know, I'm scared, I'm in front of people, what's it going to be like, shoot off a lot of fight flight. If I were dancing in fight flight, and that choreographer said, hey, Dee, I'd be like, just a minute. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on. I was really in that. Hold on. Okay. What would you like to tell me? So when I found out there's this other active state that is not fueled by fight flight, I was like, this is important. And in my long journey with polyvagal theory, what I've understood is when we use this active state, we feel when we're thirsty and we drink water. We don't need an app to tell us, I'm thirsty, drink some water. We feel when we're hungry, we eat. We feel when we're full. This state, this active state, creates a kind of rest that is reparative, replenishing. Now, our animal bodies are designed, if we sense life-threatening danger, to shoot into fight flight. So we can hopefully flee the danger and, at worst, fight. If we feel trapped, our animal bodies are designed to go into a unique calming state called shutdown. And we know from the work of longtime trauma expert Peter Levine that our animal bodies are designed to come out of shutdown with a burst of fight flight. The possum's in the backyard and senses the coyote roaming and goes into shutdown, is playing possum. Hopefully it won't smell so interesting and the coyote will not notice it there. Now, when the possum senses that the coyote's far enough away, it shoots into fight flight. Its body naturally does that to hopefully jump over the fence, get away from the coyote, get back to safety, where it will then shake off all that extra fight flight chemistry. Now, as I got this figured out so I could explain it to clients, I began asking myself, so how do we wire this in our bodies? We have the anatomical potential for social engagement system functioning. How do we wire this? I knew I didn't get it wired in me. I also sensed that my therapeutic journey was helping me get it wired into me. And so what I thought is, if we could look at how this would ideally get wired into people, then I might be more intentional about my therapeutic choices. I might be more intentional about holding space for my clients finding the rewiring to have more social engagement system functioning, and them holding space for their kids rewiring. So another drawing came. And this one is the circles of support.
Convention. This one has smaller print. So if you want to pin on Dee's rectangle, it might be easier to read the print.
Oh, I lost it here. Okay. So we have 5 circles of support. We have the womb. And when we come out of the womb, We are the most vulnerable mammals that exist. Like kangaroos, we need a pouch. So we call this circle of the support the pouch. And it is formed by the arms, the gaze, the vocal patterning, the movement of the parent. As we begin to have some self-support, we transition to the lap. And this gives us the ability to, like a little train, a little locomotive, we can locomote away and come back to the station. And ideally, we are being witnessed as we have even more ability to support ourselves and move out in the world. We want to know someone has their eye on us, so we call this the watch circle of support. And as we get these varying circles of support, we then are able to be self-supporting, individuated adult. We're able to have our individuated space within the dance of relationship. Here's an embodiment invitation to feel into the transition between womb to pouch, a very, very powerful transition. And as I said to others and those who may have joined since then, this is truly an invitation. You may wish to do this, you may wish to watch and do it with your mirror neurons. You may wish to turn your camera off and go away. If it feels okay, I invite you to begin to raise a hand, imagining that your hand is moving through amniotic fluid. As you move your hand, imagining you're moving it through amniotic fluid, I invite you to take that other hand and bring it to your belly. It can be scary to imagine being in amniotic fluid, and this hand at the belly can remind you that oxygen is coming in through the umbilical cord. Carbon dioxide's going out. Food is coming in. Wastes are going out. As this hand goes up, can you feel a connection? Belly, brain to hand. Maybe you feel a connection now, belly, brain to feet. And possibly this raised stretch of belly and hand can help you feel into a connection, belly, brain, and head brain. As you begin to lower this hand, I invite you to keep the one there at the navel. Let your head tip forward if this feels comfortable, like we do as we are in the womb, as we flip to upside down in preparation for birthing. And then bring that hand that was moving out to your nose. And feel that touch of the tip of the nose. You can keep this hand here. This is the navel, the belly, brain. We are biologically programmed to connect to the body we come out of through smell. And then you can take this hand that's inviting awareness of nose to ears. The middle ear muscle flexes, listening for the sound of that voice we've been hearing. If we are placed belly to belly on the body we come out of after we are born, we will do a little crawling movement led by the nose, led by the ears. You could touch each cheek. The touch on the cheek turns the head. This finding, this journey of seeking attachment to the body we come out of. Ideally, and this is all ideal and no one gets what's ideal, but if we can move through what would have been ideal in a practice, we can little by little become who we would have been had we had what was ideal. So as you feel into, I'm led by my nose, I'm led by my ears, my cheeks. And then ideally, this body we come out of scoops us up and supports our head. Now we've got belly, brain, and head. That nose crawl has gotten us breathing through this part of the body. We get attached, we can eat at this part of the body. And because there's still connection, head brain to belly brain, when they cut the umbilical cord, this flow of nervous system connection from head brain to belly brain allows digestion to occur in the belly brain. As you have your hand at the back of your head, I invite you to feel the base of your skull and how it connects to the neck. This is where your ventral vagal nerve is. It is the ventral vagal nerve that allows this active state that is not fight flight. It comes down in two parts, a right side and a left side, and a ventral right and left, one that comes to the front. That ventral one that comes to the front connects and affects all the other cranial nerves that affect ears, those middle ear muscles that tune into the human voice, the striated muscles of the face, vocal patterning. As you watch me or you do it yourself, feel this head support that ideally gives you a sense of being secure, and belly brain connection. One more time, I invite you to let energy bubble up from your belly brain, out your hands over to the chat box and put a word. And play with the idea that this word could pop out and your left brain can look at it and be curious about it. Oh, look at this word that just popped out. And once again, as words appear, John will read some of them. And as you hear them, you can think about this dance. Was this person able to pop this word out? You know, is it some word like cauliflower? Was this word popping out? Or was there more thought about it? Was there a sense of, well, what will people think if I put that word? What is this dance that goes on between belly brain and head brain?
We have playful, fluid, peace, peace again, clean, pivot, baby, safe.
I invite you to take a moment and just feel into this experience, this play with the possibility that energy from the belly brain can travel up the spine, out the arms, into the hands, into the movement of typing. And that your head brain can be curious about that. And then we will move into our final embodiment experience. This is the transition between pouch and lap. So for this one, I invite you to feel the bowl of your pelvis, the bones in the pelvis. This is the house for your belly brain, your enteric nervous system. And as you feel into the bowl of your pelvis, to do a little pelvic tilt. So you're going to just tip that bowl forward a little and backwards a little. As you do that, you can look at this picture. The child in this picture is sitting up, not supported by the parent. They're sitting up alone. As you tip your pelvis, I invite you to be aware of this is the movement that happened when you first, as a baby, were learning to sit alone. This, how do I stack up the vertebra so I don't fall backwards? How do I stack up the vertebra so I don't fall forward? Seated meditation is often a recommended kind of meditation, and it's a great time to practice learning self-support, rediscovering it. Is it possible to discover it with more play? As you rock a little bit forward and a little bit backwards here in this embodied experience, you might notice if there's a lot of fear, if there's a lot of muscular tension in this sitting alone, if it's not a sense of, well, look at this. This is a very convenient sort of new position I'm learning. If there's a more have to, got to support myself, then I might be chopping off my head brain. My left brain might get to freaking out. I might have monkey mind and not much ability to breathe into the belly brain. Our diaphragm here at the base of the rib cage ideally pulls way down to suck in breath and displaces the belly brain out. So there's movement in the belly brain with a deep breath, ideally. What a great position this is for meditative practice. I'm coming here. Every time I practice, I'm inviting a redo of learning to sit alone. So what might that have been like ideally? Ideally, at any moment, it feels okay to tuck that pelvis backwards and lean into that lap. You could let yourself experience that. Tuck your pelvis back and imagine there's a lap there behind you. Imagine that as you go into that curved lap there, that the arms scoop you up and bring you back into the pouch. In the pouch, you can push. You can push your arms out, push your legs, you can squirm around, you can embody core to distal in a way that the next time you have some energy for self-support, you feel like maybe you could just put your hands down, put your legs down. You might even could travel a little on your own. Now, ideally, you feel that you are being watched. If you're trying to sit alone, because this is so great. I mean, my hands are free. I can grab two things at a time. Oh my gosh, isn't this just the most amazing thing in the whole world? But when I'm tired, and I've done enough of that, I can reach my arms up. I can go in that way. That brings those big old hands that scoop under my armpits, that lift me back up, that bring me back to the pouch. And the feeling in the pouch, ideally, replicates the feeling in the womb. Now, a very important thing happens in this transition from pouch to lap. Child psychiatrist Judith Kestenberg and colleagues, especially dance movement therapist Susan Lohman, for years studied infants and infants in their interaction with parents and identified two different alternating rhythms. These rhythms alternate between ones that are called indulging and ones that are called fighting. The indulging rhythms tend to match with the caregivers, and the fighting rhythms tend to mismatch. Of those who I can see, who knows about Ed Tronick's new book, The Power of Conflict, that he wrote with Claudia Gold, pediatrician? Ed Tronick of the Still Face Experiments. He talks about mismatch as he had. This is a similar kind of concept. Judith Kestenberg and the dance movement therapists go into this much deeper, and their work aligns with this aspect of what Porges tells us. Porges names that while mammal mothers train bite regulation and claw regulation, mama dog teaches the puppies when they start to bite the nipples, there is one bite that is available for the prey that will be dinner. There is a wired in pierce flesh and rip the flesh from the bone move in our animal bodies. And this is what we use for the prey. For us, it's what we use to choose our carrots and our greens so we get all the nutrition. There's another bite that's for your litter mates. It's a different jaw formation, you know. This is how you are to play with your litter mates. And then there is another one for picking up the young. I mean, just feel into, if we could teach our clients about this, if we could do some practices, maybe be a whole lot less T and J. Maybe people wouldn't all need to sleep with bite guards. Mama Kitty teaches claw regulation. There's one kind of claw for trapping the prey. And there is a retracted kind of push with the heel of the hand for the litter mates. You know how kitties will go pa, 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 playfully with their feet and their hands. They'll do the push move that marks the territory as theirs. They leave a scent by pushing. This is the final thing of my presentation, and then I'm going to invite questions because there's just so much here, isn't there? I invite you one more time into push. You can imagine you're pushing into my hands if you wish. You can push them into the desk. You can push them wherever you push them. I invite you to feel when you push your hands into what's not you, push with the heels of your hands. And the more you push with the heels of your hands, you are learning claw retraction. Instead of saying, ha, ha, I can say, ho. Instead of you, it's all your fault, which is a giant tooth. Or, hey, recognize this tooth? This is an eye tooth. Instead of these teeth, I can push and I can learn, I'm going to stop you because that's not working for me right now. It is such an honor to share this material with you. There's a lot here. So in order to go where you would like me to go, I'm going to attend to some questions that would be in the chat box. I'm not watching the chat box because I wanted to really connect with you, but John's doing that. Are there questions in the chat box, John, that you can just call them out to me, read them, tell me what they are? Or right now, if you've got questions, you can put them, let them come up from your belly brain, out your hands into the chat box, and we will dance. Okay, no questions yet. So I will let you sit and tune into your belly brains. Yeah, and see what comes up and out. There's many things I have not said that I can say when I know sort of where your interest is going here.
We have, how do we use this with clients?
So
You might repeat the question.
a question, how do we use this with clients? The map, the circle of support, I mean, not the map, circle of support, the map, the drawing of nervous system functioning. I drew it, I created it to use with clients. And so that is my first thought about how do we use this with clients. And in the Neuro Toolbox, Neuroeducation Toolbox, there's a description of, there's instructions of how to use it with clients and a description of my using it with a client. Basically, to show people who come in and say, I'm anxious, and then I'm depressed, and then I'm anxious, and then I'm depressed, and it just all feels like one swirling mess. Dee, I'm so afraid. I think I'm bipolar. To be able to say, this is how our animal bodies work when we sense life-threatening danger. That let's see what we can do to help you feel safe. And then at whatever point it feels right, that it's not like we're always in this, because our bodies can't stay in this all the time. I mean, if we do, pretty much we go into mania. We tend to bounce back and forth. And what has happened is certain moves that the social system could not tolerate have been put into shutdown. Here's my theory. I think back when we thought this was all there was, it seemed to make sense if we're going to try to live together as social beings, let's just take all those bite the mom, scratch the mom, kick the mom, and shut that down. We'll just call those moves bad. And people who can keep those moves and shut down are good. But then we are oppressing these natural animal moves. So what do? Well, we start to dominate these moves with negative self-talk, with self-shaming, because shame is the best way to keep movements into shutdown. And then we start to ruminate about the negative self-talk that is dominating to oppress these moves. So psychoeducation about how all this works, that there's ways of being that show up in your gestures. I keep seeing these moves come up. And it's great that you're starting to have some moves that come out from your body. And these moves, I will tell my clients, this tooth, this move is a tent pole for your energy sphere. That if we take this and we create a sense of, this is mine, this is what I can control. This is not something I can control well, but I can begin to set some boundaries. I can begin slowly with practice to set some boundaries. Now, how do I begin this shift of this, these gestures, you know, blah, how do I shift this into this? Well, just so happens the other tool in the neuroeducation toolbox. Eric had no idea this. He did not ask me to let him talk about his book. But the other one is push. And I talk in that one how we can invite clients to experience when I push into what's not me, I find me. We call this the me, not me dance. So here we see how we get into the blame. I want to fight this infant. I want to fight and I want to target the body I come out of, but ooh, that makes me bad. And when it keeps popping awake and I keep wanting to blame someone, I take this and I turn it in like this and I shame. And then I'm over here in the blame shame game. And so the more we can understand that this is how our bodies work, when families come and parents are like, my child is just so oppositional, I invite them to push. If I can, if I'm there with them, I invite them to push into my hands. These oppositional moves are how we embody. And as the parents practice pushing into me, I begin to teach them how to practice letting their kid push into them. So that's a long answer to that question. What's another question, John?
How do we recognize what is not yours and what is yours? What is the feeling?
What a fabulous question. Here we get into 12-step work. So there's a prayer for that. It's not something that, oh, well, can't control that. I mean, sometimes it is, but mostly the what can I control, what can I not control is going to be something we reason out. We get the wisdom to know the difference. That serenity prayer that got adopted by the 12-step work, higher power, the greater breath, gravity, grant me the serenity, the ability to take a deep breath when there is something I cannot control, the courage to take action when there's something I can control. I'm going to pause in the dance we're doing right now because I'm feeling the need for some self-care. I'll get back to you. What can I control? And then there's the wisdom to know the difference. I invite everyone into a Chi for Two practice we call alternate shoulder rolls. So you just roll one shoulder and then the other. And you can notice if you want to roll it forward or if you want to roll them backwards. This movement, as you do it, can you feel into that old expression on the one hand, on the other hand? On the one hand, I could do such and such, and well, on the one hand, this is kind of nothing I can do anything about, but on the other hand, I could take care of, giving myself some extra TLC today, but on the one hand, now as you do this, it can even get your hands moving on the one hand, on the other hand. And then this embodiment experience is helping you feel down into your belly brain a little more and could get your breath a little deeper. So it's a dance, and all the dances are relational. Let's go back to the circle of support. Another thing I do, and I teach people, I have an embodiment training now so that people can become a Chi for Two embodiment coach. And what I teach people is you can also kind of look at what circle of support does my client need to replicate. So if the circle of support my client needs to replicate is this kind of getting more in their arms because they tend to have no gestures at all, then I invite something called an elbow push, that this kind of move over to the arm of the sofa and just kind of push your elbow into it. If somebody is needing to do some of this kind of work, that you can show them the circle of support drawing. These are available on our website, chi42.com. And you could invite them to sit their back into the sofa and feel that replication of a lap, a harbor that your body boat can come and rest into. So inviting awareness, your voice, the vocal patterning you have as you work with your client is invitational. Knowing that the dances alternate between indulging and fighting is key. That you're not wanting them to drink the Kool-Aid you're giving them. You're wanting them to feel free to say, you said that last week and I didn't like how you said that. And you're like, whoa, yay for you, how brave, how cool. How was that to come in here and tell me that? Awesome, you. So you're looking for both the matching and the mismatching, celebrating the mismatching, saying, keep dancing with me. You're inviting that awareness of me, not me through push. And psychoeducation, that this is how it works, that your body is doing the things bodies do. Let's keep working on the rewiring of the nervous system functioning so we can help you be over in social engagement system functioning, except for those very moments when there is a usefulness of fight flight. If the earth opened when you're in Hawaii and lava started coming out, you want the fight flight. If that lava is about to take you under, you want shutdown. If it changes direction, you want fight flight. You want to bounce back and forth between fight flight and shutdown until you get to safety. In my interview on the Thoughtful Counselor, I talk about 4 different things related to safety, because we don't tell people, well, you're safe. We don't say, you're safe in here. What we say is, let's do the dance that will help you feel, you tell me when you feel safe. Help me know what you don't feel safe about. Push into me. Your freedom to correct me, to push into me, is what lets you know you're safe. It's what lets you feel you're safe. I mean, we're not safe. Nobody's safe these days. We drive around in cars at 70 miles an hour. If you cough, you're dead. We have sensitive people that feel into climate change. They feel the barometric pressure shifts. And if we tell them, well, you're just too sensitive, ideally what wakes up is that if you'll tolerate this, and if not, please speak up. Wake up that fuck you bitch and be honored at the name of bitch. I'm wild mammal mother, I'm wild dog mother, and let's get some awakeness in you, and then let's direct that awakeness to a piece of art, to a piano, to the computer. Let's rip paper. Let's direct it into a way that we say, yay for these moves. This is awakening of authentic movement in dance movement therapy. Let's say yay for these moves. And here is the socially useful expression. I've never seen this, but I have lots of clients who tell me about this TV show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. And there's this uncle who is teaching about, I'm seeing a head nod in Amanda, about these kids, how to bend water, to bend fire, to bend air. These expressions, these fighting rhythms that want to come out, and they want to be targeted toward the mother, the body we come out of. And when we normalize that and then say, and Mama Dog is going to teach us how to use those to eat our food better, to articulate our words and speak our truth, to drum, to dance, to draw. John has more questions for me.
When we think of the power of push, is it as a way to identify ourselves with contact with the other?
Oh, yes, of course. It's how to find self in the dance with other. Another way I've said it is, as I risk in these fight the mother dances, as I risk having my own unique rhythm within the orchestra, then I find individuation within the dance of relationship. West meets East. The Western idea of individuation is sort of here, go find yourself. And the Eastern is stay with us, shut down your urges to be disrespectful, so subjugate self for the community. This new way that polyvagal theory is helping us understand, because it helps us see the trauma response like my map, and then it brings us to the attachment and how the attachment dances ideally could go, so we can do practices. Do you see yoga here? Pose of the child. Pose of the child. Tabletop, seat, warriors, seated meditation, Tai Chi, body work, energy healing work. My latest piece for counselors is the ethical pairing of psychotherapy and body-based therapies and practices by seeing what are we replicating. Another question?
It's a long one.
Okay, long question.
Does it mean, in an ideal situation promoting secure attachment, our caregivers teach us how to balance the indulging and fighting rhythms and hopefully learn to use mostly the indulging side in our functioning? Just trying to integrate what you have shared with us.
Thank you so much. I so am honored by questions. No, not really. Let's see if I can help you feel that when we shut down any of the rhythms because the social system cannot tolerate those rhythms, we are not our full self. We don't have all the movements that the body could have, and then we express them in a way that is socially useful. So we don't want to shut the feelings down. We want to have them all. So those who are here and with me on screen, I invite you to sway. And to whatever degree it feels okay to sway, to look at all of us. And we're making a matching rhythm. We're all swaying. We're making kind of this indulging, matching rhythm. And then whenever you feel like it, throw in a mismatching rhythm. John did one. Yeah, and Amanda's doing some. That's me doing one. And notice how the orchestration is more interesting when there's some mismatching rhythm thrown in. Notice how it feels to be the one to do the mismatching rhythm, because it is going to draw attention your way. And if it didn't feel okay to catch attention, then that might feel that fight, flight risk. People will ask me, do we always need to go through fight, flight, out of, shutdown? And the answer is yes, we just may not recognize it as counselors. When you do that mismatch, it can feel like, is this okay? Is this all right? That fight, flight of, feels outside of my bubble. It feels over here. I risked something that the social system wasn't able to handle when I was doing it when I was little. Is this okay? And if you're doing it in a situation where mama dog is holding space, you can begin to integrate this move and find your unique way of doing it so that you can have the rhythms be really big and aggressive. So the answer isn't to balance the indulging and the fighting. It's to direct the fighting ones to socially useful places. Now, how do we do that? Toilet training. It's just like toilet training. Ideally, in toilet training, you begin to have this bodily expression of, that's that feeling that happens right before the water pours out of my penis, pours down my leg. And that mindfulness, you begin to feel, I could feel that feeling and hold it for a minute and go in that little room. And everybody's so happy when I do that. That's that feeling that starts to happen before I bite my brother. I think instead of biting my brother, I will bite this toy because everybody seems so much happier when I do that. So I haven't shut down the urge to bite. I haven't shut down my bladder, my kidneys. And again, this is ideal. Nobody gets what's ideal. Safety is a luxury of the dominant culture. This is multi-generational patterning. It's gonna, but if we can start one move at a time to understand that we put moves in shutdown that the social system cannot handle. How can we begin to awaken these moves, tolerate is this okay? Is mom gonna freak out now that I'm doing this thing? And work that to become more part of the movement vocabulary. Then we begin to have, could whoever asks that question put I'm like thumbs up if I fully answered it?
Jehan.
Yes, okay, thank you. So I have time for maybe one tiny short question.
This is an easy one. How do you adapt this for people with neuro disabilities?
Beautiful. So first of all, we stop using the word disability. We call it diff-ability. Now, eye contact is overrated. It can be very triggering. It's very stimulating. So the invitation that anybody with their sensitivities and their neuro differences, the mama dog, the counselor, and then the parents, we want to invite everyone to have space for their unique dance. And part of that often is not giving eye contact, inviting the dance that is theirs more and more to be present, and offering mirroring some sense of, I hear you. Whoa, I hear you. Just like when we were starting to match a little And you can see if somebody's like, I don't want to match with you. I'm afraid you're going to eat me up. I'm afraid you're going to make me swallow the Kool-Aid. I want my own thing. And then you can appreciate that you got your thing, and and you know, are you feeling like you got space? And we make some space for the unique dance of that person. Person who answered the question, thumb up, thumb down. That kind of give you a little something there.
That was Kevin, so he's not on video.
Okay, I'm not seeing who that is, but I hope that was a little bit helpful. This has been so fun to talk about with you guys. Like, these are my brainiac people. I'll tell you one last story as we end. So when I first found polyvagal theory, and I was just nerding out on polyvagal theory and talking about it, my grown son, who is now a Tai teacher and helping me with Chi for Two, we were walking one day, and we saw this lizard that was very still, and I jokingly said, he's in dorsal vagal shutdown. And he said to me, Mom, if your prayers ever get answered one day and you meet Stephen Porges, he is going to say to you, everything should not be looked at through the lens of polyvagal theory. And then I laughed, but I thought in my head, but isn't it great that it can be? And then years later, John and I had dinner with Porges, and I'm here to tell you, everything's polyvagal theory. By my clock, it's time, so I will be quiet.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation it was magnificent. Thank you. I am so excited to have a conversation with you and really just let all of that sink in. I'm still with the shoulders. Thank you so much, Dee. That was wonderful. One